Everybody just relax. I'm not going to do what everyone thinks I'm going to do and freak out over Mike Boynton's basketball situation or Mason Rudolph's predicament in Pittsburgh.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on Twitter at AllDayOState. Today, we're partially brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment matter more with FanDuel, because right now, if you join today, you get $150 back in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Mason Rudolph did not get a fair shake at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Therefore, naturally, I would typically be inclined to say I cannot wait for Mason Rudolph to get out of Pittsburgh. Matter of fact, we have said that on this very program. He was being wasted. But just as much as I don't appreciate Big Ben being a big old you-know-what, and having a large hand in derailing not only the beginning of Mason Rudolph's career, but definitely the beginning of James Washington's career, I wanted him to get out from underneath that because he was always better than Mitchell Trubisky. Like that was pretty easy to see, right? He looked like he was going to be able to always give Kenny Pickett a run for his money. But as we are now hearing that Mason Rudolph may very well want to explore the opportunity to leave the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's definitely going to have some suitors. The question is going to be financially, are the suitors going to be willing to pay him more than the Pittsburgh Steelers can pay him? The Pittsburgh Steelers clearly like to keep Mason Rudolph. They've kind of found a way to put this information out there in one way or another. But now you're also hearing that Coach Mike Tomlin is a very big fan of, keeping Kenny Pickett as the guy. He's also a big fan of Justin Fields' game up there in Chicago. Those are not warming indictments, I think, on where Mason's loyalty should lie. It does hurt the heart a little bit, though, to consider the fact that a large percentage of Pittsburgh Steeler Nation did eventually get behind Mason Rudolph, and then there was a large push for Mason Rudolph to keep the job going into the playoffs, and then he was able to do that and then have a pretty good game in the playoffs as well. So not only did he put himself in a position that Pittsburgh Steelers would have to at least realistically look at the prospect of bringing Mason back, but now they have to look dead in the eye the fact that they may single-handedly, because of some of the tomfoolery that they let Big Ben get away with, put themselves in a precarious situation. If, for whatever reason, Mason Rudolph does not decide to stay in Pittsburgh, which is not a foregone conclusion, mind you, he's still going to listen, right? He's still going to listen to what Khan and everybody else in the Steelers offices have to say, because Mason Rudolph isn't necessarily the jump ship and go to the next easiest thing type of guy anyways. Not to mention the fact that he also watched the Innsbruck Nation get behind him, especially as the run continued. One of the greatest things that I'll always remember about this run for Mason Rudolph is from going as the guy who needs to get out of Dodge to then being the guy that's getting yelled, chanted in the stadium with your name being called and people legitimately happy on what you're providing for them. It's going to be kind of crappy to see that go, because they did get behind him, and he did go there originally to be the heir apparent to Big Ben. At least that's why he wanted to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. But at the end of the day, Although the storyline would be even better if he did stay in Pittsburgh and he did beat out Kenny Pickett. He's not really going to get a fair shot, is he? They have way too much invested in Kenny Pickett. Now they are, shedding some cap space to try to gain themselves a little bit more of a financial leveraging position. Mitchell Trubisky is now gone, but they wasted money on Mitch that they could have been given to Mason this whole time. Therefore, I could see why he'd want out. And if he does want out, I think that the New England Patriots would be a viable option, because I don't think Mac Jones is it. And I think Bailey Zappi is a pretty cool story. But I don't know that Bailey Zappi is necessarily it either. But even if Bailey Zappi might be it or Mac Jones might be it, neither one of those guys is significantly better than Mason Rudolph. I would argue that neither one of those guys is anywhere near better than Mason Rudolph. Because of that alone, the New England Patriots likely are to be a pretty viable option here. Of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers are still going to have a say in this, because they very well could offer the amount of money that entices Mason Rudolph to, in fact, come back for another season. Now, it's not so much about the money, I think. Is it about the opportunity? Like, what are they going to be able to sell him to say, we are legitimately going to give you a real shot to be the guy, as opposed to, we're legitimately going to kind of bring you in here to compete, but it's Kenny's team until you beat him out in or he proves otherwise. Not a bad look, and that's the kind of guy that Mason Rudolph is, which is why it's not surprising that he will, in fact, likely wait to see what the offer is from the Pittsburgh Steelers. But y'all know how I've said time and time again, I really don't give 13 hoots about the NFL, except for when there's Oklahoma State players playing. So the more players from Oklahoma State that are playing in the NFL, more games that I watch, the more Oklahoma State players that are starting and making a massive impact on the game, the more invested I am going to be into that particular team. With that being said, I know I'm only up in Colorado for, another couple of years, but if we can get Mason Rudolph to Denver, I would be a happy camper. I would then finally have a reason to use some of the media credentials to go on down up the highway and watch the Broncos play, because I had no desire to watch them play, nor did I have any desire to watch Russell Wilson. I didn't do it for me. But now you can potentially sell me on the idea of Mason Rudolph coming to Denver, and I promise you, I will absolutely be in line to buy the best, brightest orange number 2 Denver Broncos jersey they can make. I think that he would do good in the Broncos organization. I do think that they're in a position where they're rebuilding, right? And in part of a rebuild is you're going to have to allocate financial resources to other places, to other positions. And that's fine. You don't have to break the absolute piggy bank to get Mason Rudolph like you messed around and did to get Russell Wilson when he was already way over the hill and past his prime. This is a different scenario. You don't have to break the absolute piggy bank and give up a bunch of positions that you would prefer. Mason Rudolph is the best of both worlds. You get a quality quarterback that's one of the top 32 quarterbacks, at least top 33, 34 quarterbacks in this league all day, every day. And then you get to save some money to maybe help provide some pieces around him to make him a little bit better and to make his career in Denver or wherever he goes a little bit longer. I think the Patriots are realistic. The Steelers, I think, are still pretty daggone realistic. But Denver's not only realistic, I think it'd be a phenomenal place for him to go. Maybe even Vegas. Speaking of Vegas, guys, you don't have to run off to Vegas to make the money, honey. You and I both know all you got to do is get rocking and rolling with FanDuel right here, right now, today. Because you now know our new customers are getting $150 back in bonus bets with any $5 money line winning bet. That is 150 bones back if your bet wins with $5 or more. Make buckets in your bank account with FanDuel. There's a reason why it's America's #1 sportsbook betting partner. You can bet on a multitude of things, whether it be overs, unders, player props, game parlays, who's going to win the championships, divisions, and more by visiting FanDuel.com/lockedon. Go there now. Shoot your shot with FanDuel by going to FanDuel.com/lockedon because FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Whenever you look at basketball, okay, I know it's hard to do that. And I also know that J.C. Hoyt and the women's basketball team was giving us a lot of things to look forward to. The Cowgirl basketball brand was giving us a decent amount to definitely look forward to as it pertains to the hardwood at Gallagher Arena. Thankfully, John Smith and the Cowboy wrestling squad have stepped up to answer the bell to keep the lifeblood of Gallagher Iba continuing. Because Bedlam was okay until it wasn't. And I'm not going to hoot and holler and ride on the rails until I can't speak anymore in regards to Mike Boynton. The Bedlam loss was more or less a microcosm of not just this season, but unfortunately the large portion of Mike Boynton's time at Oklahoma State. But again, it's not all bad. We're not completely done with this particular set of circumstances. So I choose to now instead focus on the positives. Some of the positives are we haven't seen a lot of improvement, especially individually, since Mike Boynton's really been here. But I can say this year we did see an improvement from Bryce Thompson. Was it the 5-star blue chip McDonald's All-American level that we maybe hoped to get? No, not quite. But it was a step in the right direction. Bryce Thompson was significantly better shooting the basketball this year than at any point in time previous to him being in college, dating back to his year at KU, first year at Oklahoma State, and then even last season. The downside is obviously Bryce Thompson is out. What makes that part even more difficult to kind of swallow is, let's face, we don't really have a major reason for him to rush back from the shoulder surgery he just got out of. Of course, I would love for him to come back and be a Cowboy. But I also think that there's a possibility that if we decide to move on, maybe Bryce Thompson is one of the players that also decides maybe he should take his talents to do something else. But again, bright side, he did improve. He did develop at least enough to raise his stock a little bit. Maybe not a significant amount, right? He's definitely not going to go jump in the lottery, but he's in a better position than he was when the season started. John Williams, the athletic ability is still there. The tenacity has gotten better. His ability to kind of navigate in the lane has gotten better. We still got to make sure that we're taking the most clutch shots in the end with the right people to take those clutch shots. Javon Small is one of those guys that can take those clutch shots. And the beauty here is that we should and could definitely get Javon Small back for another year, him only being a junior. Javon Small is arguably the best player on the team. The only other argument I think that you can make wholeheartedly right now would be Brendan Garrison on this year. Eric Daly Jr. has done some phenomenal things that have reminded you why he was such a highly touted guy coming out of high school, as has Brendan Garrison. But obviously the Isaiah Miranda thing didn't work out. Obviously, whenever you look at the bench of Oklahoma State, what we're asking Connor Dow to do at the latter half of the season is light years different than what we were asking Connor Dow to do at the beginning of the season. I thought maybe the beginning of the year we'd see a little bit of Nas Brown sprinkled in. Well, we don't get a lot of that. Jarius Hicklin, right? That's somebody that even Doug Gottlieb was pretty high on coming into Oklahoma State. Being somebody that can kind of relieve some of the pressure from a John Michael Wright or even a Javon Small before he even had Javon Small. And even though he puts up all the stat track numbers in practice and he holds himself accountable on a daily basis, which is typically something you want to see all day, every day out of the coaches or as a coach out of the players, it's not necessarily translating to more time on the floor. Mike Marsh, he was always going to be a big bruising body style of guy. And Brendan Garrison was always hopefully going to be as good as advertised. Well, thus far, it appears as though he's as good as advertised. The thing of it is he doesn't have his partner in crime, or at least who was supposed to be his partner in crime in Isaiah Miranda. But again, we're sticking in the vein of positives. The recruiting numbers have always been good under Mike Boynton. I do think that no matter how this whole thing shakes out, other than the advanced profile that we have in recruiting, at least from a basketball side of things with Mike Boynton, I'm still holding out hope. Maybe I'm a glutton for punishment that we can at least end the season, this season, for as abysmal as it has been, with the last Bedlam W for somebody's time in Stillwater. Like, we're not asking for a lot, all right? But we are asking for a Bedlam dub in Gallagher, Iowa. I mean, you saw them running around like they made it to the Final Four when they beat us the other day. It was nice to see that glorified Boise State level junior high school basketball arena, quote unquote, actually had butts in the seats. You almost could have fooled us, OU fans. You almost could have fooled us and made us actually believe that you finally, for the first time, care for something not named football. But not so fast, my friends. We know how you really fly, and we know how you really will not show up when the game's in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Maybe if you want to take the time to drive from Norman, the fans will show up. But some redemption, yeah. The players have to know that there's some awkward writing on the wall as well. The players have to know that this is going to be an opportunity for us to make a statement and to put something out there that could not only help our coach, but it could definitely help us, and it could help this team catapult itself into maybe another layer, another classification. As J.C. Hoyt and the Cowgirls touch down in Lubbock, Texas today to take on the Lady Red Raiders tomorrow for Valentine's Day, we get ready for Mr. Clint Foster. We get to chop it up about a little bit of TCU. But before we do that, you know you can't be the MVP of enough if you can't get there, which is why eBay Motors needs to be your number one in-store for your ride or die rig. They have everything that you need to bring home a multitude of trophies. And they have a multitude of ways to help you maintain your vehicle. From superchargers to roof racks to LED lighting kits, exhaust kits, and more, regardless of whatever you're into. Speed, power, style, doesn't matter. eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from, your number one ride or die rig can always stay alive because you can find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, once you burn in rubber and not cash, with all the parts you need and all the prices you want, it is easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that W. Keep your ride or die rig alive at ebaymotors.com. Again, go to ebaymotors.com because eligible items only, exclusions apply, and eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available for U.S. customers. So we did win a national title. But see, the nuance of learning tennis, it's new, all right? And it is a national championship, but it's not an NCAA national title. Some of that chaps my hide. Because I know the ITA, from what I have been able to gather, is a very, very, very big deal. So this is certainly, right, trophy in hand, coming back to Stillwater, Oklahoma. But it's not an NCAA title. Okay, that's okay. Because now we get to host the NCAA championships in Stillwater, Oklahoma come May. And I have decided that, yeah, I'm ready to go to a tennis match. I'm ready to get riled up, fired up, and kicked out if need be. I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with not even necessarily biding my time in the process. I'm going to do what comes naturally. Thankfully for everybody involved, tennis, it doesn't come supernatural. So there's going to be times where I'm probably somewhat quiet when maybe I shouldn't be. But the times I'm supposed to be loud, I can't wait for it. Because national championship number 54 is still in the works. It is still on the way. Does it have to come from tennis? No, it doesn't. The official NCAA national championship number 54, it can come from wrestling. It can come from softball. Oh, it'd be so nice if it come from baseball. Softball is going to give us some hope. Of course, you've got the juggernaut down the road. That's always going to be a problem. But if you just notice, they lost one of their big-time aces, which now means Kelly Maxwell is going to have a bigger role. And it's still Kelly Maxwell, right? Still got to give respect where respect is due. But her ERA right now is like double what Kyra Aycock is, or Lexi Kilfoyle. Is Lexi better than Kelly? I'm not ready to say that. But what I am ready to say is John Barfield, alongside Carrie Everly, seems to have a little bit better of an understanding of how to use the pitching staff this season, as opposed to just solely focusing on the development of Kelly Maxwell. Because clearly we developed Kelly and we used Kelly so much that she just fell apart at the end of the year. So although she's gone now and she's at the school we do not speak of, I do think that was a learning lesson for Coach Kenny Gajewski, John Barfield, and everybody else. That if you only develop a certain group, then the group behind them is never going to be ready. It's the same concept as the preferred walk-on department at Oklahoma State and everywhere else. The best PWO programs in the country will typically equal the best successful programs in the game of football year in, year out. This is no different. But this has the opportunity to be a massive year because obviously 2024 has already started out pretty good with all of the wonderful news we just kept getting with Oklahoma State football. It just kept coming. It kept coming. It kept coming. Basketball was a little bit of punch in the throat. J.C. Hoyt, able to stay the tide, keep us pretty pumped up there for a while. I know a lot of us are still pretty fired up for Cowgirl basketball, but we got to start winning. And, I mean, we lost Bedlam, women's and men's basketball. That's hard to forgive. It's hard to forgive on top of other losses, right? But we can get right. J.C. Hoyt and the Cowgirls, we have faith that you can do some stuff, make some adjustments, and get right in Lubbock, Texas. Cow basketball, Mike Boynton, I can't say that we're extremely confident, but I can say that just leave it all out for Bedlam, man. If we don't win another game, Can you at least make it that one? We don't need to have discussions ad nauseum in regards to who should or could replace Mike Boynton. We're going to let a sleeping dog lie for now. We're going to try to accentuate some of the things that are definitely beneficial for Oklahoma State this season as we look forward to what April may or may not end up shaking out of the trees. At softball, we climbed to number 6 in a poll, number 8 in a poll. So we're clearly in the top 10 all day, every day. I do find it a little sketchy that team that we beat got notched back like 15 some odd spots, 16 spots. That's a bit much, right? That's a bit much, NCAA. You can't show up and act like UCLA is hammered dog tar just because they got beat up by Oklahoma State and Texas. You can't. Texas is that good. Oklahoma State is that good. OU is that good. To punish them for losing to 2 teams, I don't think that's all fair to them. But what do I care? We get a top 5 Georgia. We get a top 10 Washington. We get a top 12, top 15 LSU. There's a lot to be thankful for, and there's a lot to look forward to in Cowgirls softball country, just like I now. Congrats, tennis. I cannot believe I'm saying I can't wait till May to go watch some tennis. Yeah, I can't. National championship number 54 is bound and determined to come in 2024. The question is, what sport does it come in? Is it tennis? Is this a sign of times of things to come? From what I've gathered, Michigan is not going to get any worse between now and May. Neither is Stanford. So there's still going to be a lot of stiff competition. It's not a shooting that we're going to win the national title because the top 3, top 4, I guess, in tennis are all pretty daggone close. That's what the scores were pretty indicative of, and that's what I saw when I watched, even without having knowledge of really what was going on at first. You let me know down in the comments section below. Is tennis the next national title that comes to Oklahoma State? Or better, does Oklahoma State win multiple NCAA national titles this year? Let me know down in the comments section. You know I love you. That's all we're going to have for this one right here. My podcasting people, you're the bread, you're the butter, you're the bricks, you're the foundation. I appreciate you. Shout out to all my regulars, a.k.a. regulators out there. Like the daggone thing. Dislike it if you don't like it. That's fine too. Most importantly, share, comment, subscribe. We're going to try to continue to hit the ground running with hopefully what continues to be an epic 2024. All right. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. I am so happy that you choose to be here. All righty, y'all. You know the drill. Catch you on the flip side. Later, taters.